Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Straight Line Selling. My name is David Munoz. It's so good to have everyone joining the webinar this morning. You're here because you've made it a point to create a synergy business, and in the process of creating your synergy business, as we go through this, as I call it, let's say a path to building our synergy business. We want to gain as much skill sets as we can. And this is just one small addition to the skill set you might be able to gain based upon my experience and the experience I've had and just the resources I personally try to learn from. And it's my pleasure to share it with you. So the topic today, we're going to talk about straight line selling and using the looping technique to overcome objections. Objections that we typically get every day when we're talking to people. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. I just want a little bit of time. And most of the time it's okay because quite honestly, the normal process of selling, it takes about 7 touches. But there are occasions when an individual is in a situation, which I'll explain momentarily, that it's in their best interest to make the decision sooner than later. And you know it and they know it, but they may need just a little bit of transition from doubt to certainty. Because really, using the loop technique involves overcoming uncertainty. So we're going to talk about the straight line selling concept, using the looping technologies in getting ourselves, one, mentally prepared when we are in the process of talking to someone about what we represent. Now, in my case, it's nitric oxide therapy. It may be in your case, weight management, might be energies, it might be something else, but whatever the business is, the straight line selling concept really applies across the board to any business. The concept is selling is basically the same everywhere you go. I want to talk about the 5 stages of straight line selling. The 5 stages we're going to go over, using the 3 10s, and again, the 3 10s involved 3 being positive or being a 10 at the absolute positive level about the 3 10s. We'll go into that in a moment. And of course, and finally, effectively using the looping strategies to be able to close the sale and be able to get the person from uncertainty to certainty. If you have not seen the straight line selling presentation I did about a month ago, you might go to the Getting Started training tab on our Synergy family. It talks in a general way about the straight line selling concept, getting the right mindset, the importance of continued growth, improving your success, and of course, how to get the tools, how to get started with the tools in straight line selling. Okay, we got to give credit where credit is due. Straight line selling is not something David Munoz invented. No, the credit goes to Jordan Belfort. He is the original Wolf of Wall Street, as portrayed in the movie by Leonardo DiCaprio. And it shows his story about being a successful securities manager in the stock market. He rose very fast. He, instead of staying on the straight and narrow, he took a curve and wound up getting himself in trouble and serving time. And his thoughts while he was in jail was, I want to show my kids when I get out, I can do it and be honest and actually help people and still make $1 million by sharing my knowledge. Obviously, he's barred from the security industry, but now he's a very successful trainer. And now, if you decide to watch the movie or listen to any of his videos, you'll know that he is what my wife calls me when we first met. I've changed a little bit. She says I'm rough around the edges. And when that happens, of course, you tend to try to measure yourself. So when you do see it, I'll just share the verse for the day, okay? The verse for the day is 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Examine everything carefully, take in that which is good. All right, so be sure you stick with the good stuff. All right, so in my first presentation on straight line selling, I talked about what is selling. And we went over the definition of what is selling without being too redundant, but I'll just say my interpretation is really that selling is a transfer of emotion. We know what we believe. We know what we have. We know the changes it's made in our life. And what we want to do when we talk to an individual, whether it be over the phone or in person, is transferring emotion that is really transferring the certainty. When we first get started, I showed a video in the original straight line selling where you had a small little kid going on a machine. He was very confident when he started, but he realized real quickly that he didn't have the skill sets to overcome the obstacles of selling. And so even though he was emotional, which could work with families. I mean, when you first get started, you could either sell to families, they see your emotion, they know, they trust you, and they believe you, and they'll buy from you, or maybe a neighbor, a good friend. But eventually, when you get out of that sphere, you need to transfer to a person that's cold that you don't know. And you will get hurt in the process. So the important thing is to continue sharpening your saw and transferring the emotion of certainty, which is the most important ingredient. So this is a slide I like to show it, and when I have the opportunity to host a webinar, the slide talks about what we represent. We must be a product of the product. We must use it. We must know it works. We must have a personal testimonial, so that when we talk to the person that we're talking to, our emotion, our tone of voice, our body mannerisms reflect what we believe. And if that's not the case, then it's going to be harder for you to be able to represent a product. So we must be a product of the product. I say that front end because if it's not the case in your life, then they may not get as much out of the webinar as you can. I talked about the 3 10s. The first 10 that you must have is about the products, and I won't repeat it, but basically it's knowing about the quality of products. You say a little bit about the company. You 262 quality assurance steps with Progenine Plus. The fact that we have our own production line. We have the Hughes Center for Research and Manufacturing. Our products are featured in the Physician's Desk reference. Just all that you know your product, and you're a 10 with them. So when you start the straight line selling process, you go in knowing your stuff. Very important. Second, you also have a 10 on the certainty scale from 1 to 10 about the company. Synergy Worldwide, it was founded in 1999, it was merged with with Nature's Sunshine product. They merged, it became a bigger, wonderful company. I would say but certainly they're co-companies. And they have been recognized by Forbes magazine as amongst the highest in trustworthy, integrity. That's important to say. They're in over 20 countries. This company. So we belong to somebody that has never, ever missed a paycheck. So we're passionate about the company we represent. We've done our research. We know we're in a good place. Give me a moment here. And again, in being a product of the product, the third, number 10, is you must be certain about yourself. And again, it's kind of re-emphasizing what I said earlier, but you have to be in a point where you're confident about what you're recommending. Why? Because you use yourself. Why? Because you see the power of transformation in people. So before you start the straight line selling, you are a 10 in all 3 areas. Judy, I'm going to bring you in a minute. You with me? All right, I'm going to kind of bring you over here so I could talk to you here. Here we are. All right. You presented something so cool, fried rice cauliflower recipe. And you did a Facebook video, or maybe a YouTube, but I know it was on your channel. I saw it in Facebook. And you talked about the process of how, as our energy chef, you made fried rice. And I was hungry as you made it. I said, God, that looks good. But let me ask you a question, Judy. What if I took your recipe and I decided the first part you did was put the frying pan on there, right? and I think you poured oil and stuff. What if I decided just to put the frying pan on the fire and I decided to throw in the shredded carrots first?
Yeah, the carrots would stick to the pan.
Right, and if I put the chives and the 2 cups of cooked rice and left the oil for last, how would that taste?
Pretty soggy.
Right, so I think one of the things we're recommending here, Judy, you've got to follow, is in order for it to be done right, it's not just the ingredients, but it's the process. Wouldn't you agree?
It definitely is in the process, and that's one of the things that is so important in cooking, and to make it so much easier is to follow that process so that everything comes together in order, in the right consistency, and you have the desired result.
Great. So the reason I wanted to show this is because it's so important for us to know that it's just not about being positive in the 3 tenths, the company, yourself, and the products, but also to know the process. It's almost like when we go out to driving somewhere that we're not sure of the directions, we let our GPS guide us because it's going to guide us in the right process, right? Or use a compass if we're at the old times when they use a compass. Now it's not, it's a lot more modern, but the process is important. So thank you, Judy. I just wanted to drag you in to kind of explain the importance of following steps 1 through 7.
Thanks, Dave. My pleasure.
Great. All right, so I'm gonna continue here. I'm gonna just say that so at first, when you first talk to someone, you know that they're a 1. You know where you're at. You know your emotion and your certainty. You're a 10. But the person comes in with baggage. The person comes in where's that person's level of certainty? You don't know. You know, they may have financial problems. They may have emotional problems. They may be skeptical of you. They say, who is this person? You know, or they could be on different levels. They could be a person was recommended to you, what I call a lay me down. They say, take me, I'm sold. So that's the best kind, but those are few and far between. Most of the time, you're going to have a person that just wants to know more. And our job is to take them from a 1, right, all the way to a 10, where we are able to help them. We can also call it make the sale. But in making the sale, in getting the order, we're actually helping them transform their life and experience what we experience. So let's talk about that, the straight line selling using the loop technique. The first part of the fried rice cauliflower recipe is only half the battle, right? You're going to say the second part is eating it. Yes, but not in sales. The first part is following, right, that recipe. Now, let's say you are in sales, you're doing your presentation, right? And all of a sudden, they say, let me think about it. We're only halfway through the presentation stage, right? It's not a person that's a lay me down. It's not a person that's ready to buy. It's a person that just wants to know about it and they're not sure. When they say, let me think about it, or when they say, I'll get back to you, let me talk to my wife. What they're really telling you is they are uncertain. They are not sold. They have doubts about one of 3 areas. You, the company, or the product. So it's our job to find out what it is. Now, when we hear something say, let me think about it, our tendency typically is to say, okay, no problem, I'll get back to you. Or we'll say, okay, can I send you an email? That's all options we have, depending upon the person we're talking to. You may never see that person again. And when we go beyond this COVID environment, which, as I say, it has not come to stay, it's come to pass. When it passes, we'll be back out there networking and talking to people and having the opportunity to share our testimonials. And this is where you want to sharpen your saw and try to get as good as you can in the loop technique. So first of all, let's talk about the introduction. When you first meet a person, you got to know your buyers. So we're talking about, I'm going to address 5 steps, 5 straight line steps. The first step is taking control. And we're going to go into that, what taking control is all about. The second step is building rapport as you gather intelligence. Now, this is not manipulation. This is basically building rapport, because if you don't build rapport, that person, you're going to turn that person off. So we're going to go over number 2. After you build rapport and you gather intelligence, you're going to go into your presentation stage based upon what you told me. Presentation. Number 4, you're going to ask for the order. Just ask for the order. Number 5, most people will not say, yeah, here's my credit card. They will say, well, they'll have questions. What a wonderful opportunity. So we'll talk about addressing questions. We'll talk about looping and asking for the sale again. So I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be insensitive. But quite frankly, our business, in order for it to grow, we have to produce income. And when we produce income, we have to be able to talk to people that are ready, willing, and able to buy, and they really need it and are convinced. In my seminars that I've given, I've had people that were quite frankly not qualified. I mean, God bless them. You know, sometimes they're either unfortunately too sick. Sometimes they are not ready because they don't have the money. They're just, you know, they're out of work, they're unemployed. So they're really not ready. And since they're not ready, it may be someone that I might want to pass on or follow up with later. Then there's the looky-loos that come to my seminars or talk to me. They just want to curious. They want to see, I have my own product. I want to see how this compares. And you have to identify them, be polite, be courteous, but move on. And other people have their own agendas. This happens a lot in networking events where you typically don't want to sell, but they wind up selling to you anyway. Their objective is to recruit you or to get you to see their point of view instead of your own. Again, these are time wasters. These are people that you want to be polite, you want to be nice, but you want to get on to the people that can work with you. So in the straight line selling process, when you take control, you have to be able to know, as Kenny Rogers used to say, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, right? Know when to run. So you got to run away from them and go on in the straight line selling to the next level. So let me just go here. Okay, so what we want are like I call buyers in heat, or as John Belford calls them, buyers in heat that are ready, willing, and able, or buyers in power. Who are buyers in heat? I've had some of those, and they're wonderful because by the time they come to me, they've seen maybe my marketing, they've seen me on Facebook, maybe they heard me in the radio. They say, David, I am in pain. And you know something, a funny thing happens to affordability when you're in pain. All of a sudden, it's not that expensive, right? Especially when I tell them the most expensive product that you can buy, and you could probably finish it, it's the one that doesn't work. So when people hear that and they're in pain and they're ready, willing, and able, it's wonderful. They are lay-me-downs, sale, let's go, all right? The other ones that you want to talk to are the buyers in power. The buyers in power are those buyers that have the money to buy it, they have the interest to buy it for them or someone they care about and they love and they want to see better, but they're not at the point of a 10. Those are the ideal ones you want to educate, you want to share your knowledge with, and you want to be able to assist in getting to the point where they buy. Now we'll talk about the process of those buyers as you go in the conversation. So when you start your conversation, I call it, or I should say, John Belford called it gathering intelligence. When you start the conversation, we want to be able to be good listeners, right? Dan talks about in his videos the power of asking questions, knowing how to ask the right questions. You want to be able to show empathy with that person. That's all gathering and the exchange of information. And you must be building in your mind what's important to them. What are their pain points? Is it diabetes? Is it high blood pressure? Is it erectile dysfunction? Is it issues with high cholesterol? What is their pain points? Then you have to know their personality. Even though I'm doing this webinar a little bit fast, when you're talking to the person, you cannot be fast. You have to go down to their level, try to identify their energy, their personality, and you adjust your presentation, even your body mannerisms, to their level, so that that helps build rapport, and that helps put you on the same mindset as they are. What are their values? Do they have families? What are their interests? What do they do for a living? All those things are things that you're gathering intelligence to put in your back pocket to be able to go beyond point number 2 in the straight line selling to point number 3. Okay? Now comes your showtime, right? Now comes your opportunity to shine. Mr. Buyer, Mr. Client, right? It has been my experience, like I said, the most expensive product. What you're doing is you're pre-closing when you're saying things about the most expensive product. You're pre-closing when you say 1 out of 3 people in our generation will die as a result of a cardiovascular illness. You key off their profession, I don't know, maybe they're a carpenter, right? And you say, it's been my experience that people who know more about how nitric oxide works and how it helps the endothelium, really can get better results. It's like you're a carpenter. You know your profession. You can visualize how a table will look before you start doing it. Isn't that right? Yes. Why? Because you know where the nails go, you know how to saw it, you know how to measure it. So you can visualize the end. And I do the same thing. I help my clients see themselves better. Does that make sense to you, Mr. Carpenter? Yes, I can relate because I do that. If they're accountant, the same thing. You see a person in financial stress, you know the steps it takes to get them out of the financial hole, to help them build a budget, to help them project their investments, to help them, be more charitable, whatever it is. So you know this. Why? Because in the previous step, gathering intelligence, they shared that with you. So now during your presentation, you're bringing all that out, and you've built rapport, and you're being personable to them, going into their world. Again, body mannerisms, being able to relate to them, and even, believe it or not, your tone of voice. If they're a quiet person, then you be quiet. If they are more excitable, if their personality is higher, maybe you want to just put it up a notch so you can be relatable, not pretending to be someone you're not, just to get into their frame of mind. So when you do your presentation, when you tell them it's, my experience has been ABC, and as a result, I think this is great. What I have found, this is important when you end your presentation, what I have found, the faster people start repairing their cardiovascular health, the more quality of life they'll enjoy in the later years. That's been my experience, okay? So what's going to happen after that? Is the person going to say, I'm sold, you've convinced me, no, sometimes they'll ask a question, right? So we're in round 1. You're going to say, based upon what you're telling me, I think you should do ABC. you should get on the jumbo jar, +1. It's great value, as I said, and plus, not that money is so important, but plus you have that issue. So, round 1, they'll say, well, let me think about it. Can I get back to you? The John Belford concept, which I'm using, and it has actually worked for me. I've just started using it, so that's why I really wanted to bring it out and share it with you. It's just one more thing for your toolkit. If they say, let me think about it, I want you to make a make sense statement, all right? In other words, you're deflecting what they're saying. I think I want to think about it. That's perfectly fine, but let me ask you a question, Mr. Buyer. What I said, does it make sense to you? Did it make sense? Is it something you understood? Oh, yeah. You know, which part do you think was most, well, I really, what caught my attention was the fact you said that 1 out of 3 people in our generation are going to die because of cardiovascular health. And you say, exactly that. So now you're looping back into the sales portion of it. You're going to reinforce what they say. If they say, I want to think about it, you know at what level they are of certainty. If they say, I want to think about it, that's probably at a level 3 or 4. If they say, it sounds great, but I want to think about it, they may be at the level of certainty of 5 or 6, based upon their backfeed or their answer to you. You know where they're at. Are they closer? Are they not? So then you have to be able to have the strategy in your back pocket based upon the information gathered to talk to them, make a loop, and go back to the sales point. So if they say, what attracted me was the fact that 1 out of 3 people will die of cardiovascular disease, you might say something like, exactly, that's exactly what caught my attention. But you know, what convinced me, first of all, is that the company, because I want you to do research like I did. That's why you want to think about it. But the research I did is this: Physician's Desk Reference, the 120-day money back guarantee. That's what convinced me, and the fact that I don't want to be a statistic. I really don't. And getting started sooner than later is what I wanted to do, because I knew I wasn't going to lose my money. So based upon what you're telling me, Mr. Buyer, you know, if you buy the jumbo jar, it'll last you up to 6 months if you take it once a day, or if you want faster results, take it twice a day. So does a jumbo jar sound good, or maybe you want to start with 4 boxes, because that's, you know, some people like the sleeves. So you've deflected what he said. He wants to think about it. You are asking for the order again. In other words, in a certain psychological way, you're saying, I didn't hear that. I know you're not saying you want to think about it. You're telling me you are uncertain. Maybe I can address your uncertainty by looping back into a sales position, right? So you ask for the order again. Then there's another objections, right? It could be anything. He says, well, you know, maybe some other time or something. I says, okay, Mr. Buyer, can I be frank with you? In other words, you're deflecting again, right? Can I be frank with you? People that are sick, right, really have 3 choices. And the 3 choices are, I'll go into my sales cap again. They do nothing, and they stay as they are, which is the worst decision they could make, because they're going to become a statistic. They're going to die younger and a poor quality of life. Number 2, they can depend on meds. And you know, I don't take meds, and most of my clients have reduced or eliminated their meds, not because we're doctors, only because they feel better and make that decision. Or number 3, right, if you don't want to take meds and you don't do anything, the best choice they make is to start the reparative mechanism that nitric oxide offers. Now, how soon do you want to start the repair mechanism? Don't you think it's better to start sooner than later? I just want to be frank with you. Most people that tell me that they want to delay, I may never see them again. So if I may, just ask you, is there something I didn't say that's not clear? And you'll say, well, I've heard this multi-level marketing stuff is just, trickery or whatever. Okay, well, then you're back in the sales loop. Let me tell you something about the company, Forbes magazine, or you might say, or you might talk about yourself. Is it me you don't trust? Have I said, we've known each other for a while. What I steer you wrong? So use a little bit of leverage. Never be afraid to use some leverage and stay in control of the straight line selling process. Your tone. I say something here about your tone. It's very important. When you want to relay something sincerely, you might lean in a little bit and say, can I be frank with you, Bob? Look, you know me for a long time, and I'm just looking out for the best interest for you. You got a family. You told me you have a little business on the side. Your passion is ABC. I'm just trying to help you. Sure, I'll make a sale, but my experience has been the more people I help, the better it goes for me. Just trying to help you. If you don't want it, that's fine. But I'm just trying to help you, and that's all you can do, right? In other words, you're taking 3 or 4 different approaches just to get them to the point of certainty. But do not give up on the first objection. It's very important. So I just want to review again the steps to successful selling. 1, take control. Be sure you know who you're selling to. Be sure you know that you're not wasting your time and you've got the right people in front of you. Number 2, as you talk with them, you listen. You're gathering intelligence. Identify their pain points. Identify their level of certainty. Identify their values. Know what they do for a living, because that's what's going to use to leverage your conversation later on. Number 3, your presentation. Your presentation is short and to the point, and your presentation should be at their level. You've built rapport, so you know what's important to them, and you're relaying the information at their level, not your level, not what you know. Don't tell them about yourself. Tell them about you and what's been your experience with people like them. Number 4, ask for the order. Based upon what you're telling me, Mr. Buyer, I think you should do ABC. Let's start you off with a jumbo jar. I think if you take it, and please remember, you're not losing anything except good health, because we will give you your money back if it doesn't work. Start taking it today. Let me give you some instructions. I have the instructions right here. You might carry around the instructions that Dan Hamburg been so kind to prepare for us. It's in Art Center Your Family. I've got I can text you the instructions right now, so when you get your order, so you're assuming the order. When you get your order, you'll know what to do. What's your email address? Right? Already you've gone beyond, and you're assuming that they're going to buy. I mean, they want good health and you want good health for them. And then the close. How will you want to pay for this? Credit card? Did you want, give me a check, or what do you want to do? I hope don't make it fast when you go through the process yourself. Make it strategic. Make it yours. I hope in this webinar you're going to be able to relate to the customer in a way that follows a recipe, like Judy's. Three tens. You're certain about your company. You're certainly certain about the product. Stages of selling, right? Get rid of the buyers that are not important. Understand, you just build rapport, uncover. You go into your presentation mode. Then you the 310s, I touched that on already. You're certain about the 310s. And of course, now you get a chance to shine. Keep in mind that anything worth doing is worth doing terrible, right? So let's start doing it. there, they're overweight, that have cardiovascular concerns, right? We practice with people and fine tune our sales skills so our business will grow and of course they will get healthier. So that's pretty much my presentation for this morning, and I really, really hope it's been as eye-opening to you as it was for me. And so with that said, questions or comments anyone might have this morning?
Yes,
You have to
Timothy.
unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
I like it. This was very good, especially the point when you bring yourself down to the customer's level. That's
Yes.
what we say in dancing. You never dance up, you dance down to the person. And that was very, very effective. And
Thank you, Timothy.
let me say one left-handed thing here. Our last president always took down when he's speaking to children. Note that President Obama always bent his knees when he was speaking to children, always come down. And that's a very good point.
Thank you, Timothy. That's very true because you want to, never think that you are, certainly you want to portray yourself as an expert in your field because that's why you study the 310s. But when you are in the process of conversation, for sure, never put yourself above anyone. Come down to their level. Thank you.
Hey, David.
Hey, Judy.
So this was absolutely phenomenal. And what I really like about the 5 stages of straight line selling is that most selling organizations teach 4 of them, but not the gathering information step. And that is so imperative because it really shows that we need to make a connection with the person, to relate to that person, to build a rapport with that person, and thereby develop trust. And without that step, it's much more difficult to do step 5, which is close the sale.
So true. That's gathering the intelligence. Yeah. And as you build rapport, both things have to happen at the same time. Just gaining their trust and getting their confidence, moving them on the line to certainty, and as you gather information, and that's something you practice doing, and as you do it, practicing, you certainly get better at it. So thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Hey, David, a couple comments. What I like about your presentation is this whole concept of certainty versus uncertainty. And that applies in a couple of levels. First off, I personally have to make sure that I'm certain about everything that I'm going to talk to that person about. So, full disclosure here, I'm fully confident at a 10 that the products and Synergy Worldwide is going to help every person that we come in contact with. I'm a full 10 with regards to the ability of the company to produce quality products that are exceptional. No one can do it better than Synergy Worldwide. And the nice thing about it is they can consistently do it every time. So every batch is going to be the same. Where the uncertainty may come in is your belief system and whether network marketing is what's right for that individual. But from a customer standpoint, from a business standpoint, the certainty that every person that you come in contact could benefit from Synergy products is an absolute 10. So then the question is what you're talking about. How do I transfer my certainty to the person that I'm talking to? And what I'm hearing you say, David, and correct me if I've got this wrong, is that if the objections come up, then it's not because of anything that I've necessarily done, but it's because they do not yet have certainty. So I have to look at every objection then that, okay, what did I not do well enough to be able to communicate the certainty that I have to that individual? And then going back in your looping technique and using, if I do what Judy's talked about, what you talked about, the more information I've gathered about the individual, the more that I can use that information, not to manipulate, but to address their uncertainty so that they can become certain, at least to the point of trying the product, knowing that if for whatever reason it doesn't work, they're always going to get their money back.
Correct, Dan, and the effective use of the deflection technique is not being rude. You nod your head and you understand what they're saying, but you deflect it and go back into the sales mode. And like you say, based upon the information you've gathered, they are not that certain. So you need to identify during your gathering process the pain points. What is important to them? Why are they coming to you? And you go back to your selling portion based upon the information you've gathered. So you're absolutely right, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
So do we have any other comments or questions this morning on the straight line selling looping technique?
Hello, David. It's Donald.
Hey, Donald. Good morning.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Like Dan, most of us are good with the 310s, but sometimes it's in the process, and we get mixed up in the process, delivering those or working out which one should come when, and that for me, at times, because you've got all this knowledge about your tens, you tend to slip ahead or get ahead of yourself in your delivery, wanting to close too soon.
Right.
And I want to thank you for, to my mind, slowing me down in
Yes.
getting my process correct.
Thank you, Donald. That's very important what you say, slowing down, because it's not about you. It's not about what you know. It's about what the customer needs to know to get them to the certainty stage. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else wanted to have any questions or comments before we wrap it up? Listen, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share what I've learned, and I'm practicing and I'm trying to using this new technique and using all the other things that we go over every week on our webinars to implement into your business and just get better at what we do. So thank you, everyone, and just a fantastic day and a great weekend.
David, I don't know. Yancy, do you have a question before David goes?
Yeah, I did. I was just waiting until he got done with his ending statement there, but I noticed some elements of Phil Felt Found through there, and there's one word that I think that this kind of closes up on is the Phil Felt Found forward, and that's when you loop around and go back into what your main purpose is. And then I started reflecting on the main purpose. I mean, when you're involved in this process, your objective isn't just to sell the person on your belief. Your objective is to help somebody resolve some of their issues that they may be looking towards. And so you're actually on a mission to help people resolve some of the issues that they may either deal with now or that they may deal with in the future. So you've got to have the right mindset too. You're not a car salesman. You're not out trying to sell a product to somebody that you may never ever talk to again. You're building a relationship with somebody that they're going to come back when they experience the benefits of what you're proposing to them. They'll come back to you and say, thank you. They're appreciative. They're grateful for their association. You're building that rapport with them. So that's an important point of why we're in this business, because of the synergy model and what we're trying to build this synergy experience to be. So.
Yancy, you are right on. Thank you for those comments. And I want to tell you that more than once several times in my experience with the sales cycle, when you hear a person, when you gather intelligence, when you know their pain points, like you say, you tell them, you know what, I know that your mom is going through a lot. Wouldn't it be great if you can project yourself 3 months down the road and see her better? And maybe 6 or 9 months down the road, wouldn't it be great if she can reduce her meds? That's what I'm talking about. So now based upon the conversation that they told me about their mom and their family, I go back and I loop back to the sales and I say, wouldn't it be great if, and you're real, like you say, it's not about yourself. You're not selling them, so you're trying to help them get certain that they're going to have the results they're looking for based upon their passions, what's important to them. And in this case, it was their family, but it could be anything. And you want to touch on that to get them to the level of certainty where they will actually ask for the order, which is what you want. So thank you, Jency, for that. So again, I just wanted to thank everyone for your comments, your feedback, and it's been my pleasure to share a little bit of my knowledge with you. So I just thank you for being part of the webinar. You have a fantastic day and continue enjoying your weekend. Stay safe.